All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to be joined by Reid Ferguson, the current long snapper of our Buffalo Bills. He's been there 6 years. He has a brother, Blake, that plays in the league also. They played against each other in the playoff game. Can't wait to get into that a little bit. And stand out at LSU. It looks like you've been a long snapper for a long time. Josh and I want to explore that with you. But thanks a lot for coming on with us, Reid.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Just to hit on Blake, he's been in Miami. He's going on into his fourth year, and a lot of people love to ask me, "What's it like when you play him? You know, how is that?" I'm like, "It's been great for me because I'm 6-1 against him. So it's in terms of bragging rights, it's been great."
Yeah, 6-1. Did he? Does he tip you off in terms of you went there week 2 and obviously it was famously hot? And did he say, "Hey, we're going to have you wear the dark jerseys" or anything like that? A little taunting?
No, I mean, as far as I can remember, the only year that I can remember that we didn't play down there early in the season was the year that we clinched the playoffs in 2017 and broke the drought. Because all I remember is Richie Incognito got in a fight with somebody.
No way.
And I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was on TV. I don't know if it was maybe time out or something.
Yeah, he was being sarcastic.
That's a thing. Yeah, people know that. Like people, okay. And then Kyle Williams scored a touchdown. So that's my only memory of us like not playing there when it's been deathly hot, as you say. But I don't know. It's kind of it was hot last year, and it was they're a good team, but we went down there in week 3 the year before and won 35-0. So
that's right. That's right. Richie Incognito. I was there when he was a rookie in 2009, and we brought him in late in the season. And usually they came eventually, in the first day, came to my office to find out where to pick up their paychecks. And so I got a call from Kevin Meegank, who's still there, a good friend of mine.
Yep.
And Paul Lancaster was the director of player engagement at the time. Said, "Hey, I got Tommy Boy coming at you." I'm like, what are you talking about? And all of a sudden, darkening my door was this hulking guy that sure enough looked like a giant chiseled version of Tommy Boy. So I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, "Thanks a lot, guys." And then he turned out to be I had a great relationship with him. I know he had issues and stuff, but just a great guy inside the building. And anyway, so going back to, as Josh and I were talking just before came on with you, we both really are curious to know, like, you've been a long snapper for a long time. Like, it says in high school, the number 2 rated coming out of high school. How did it start?
Yeah, so in 8th grade, 8th grade was the first year I started snapping. Started playing football in 5th grade. Was like tight end, defensive end, not really playing. I was one of the bigger kids, especially 5th, 6th grade. They put the little R on your helmet so you can't carry the football. I was I had to lose 3 pounds before the weigh-in date to make just under the cut. So I didn't have the R on my helmet, but I was never going to be toting the pill, or quarterback or receiver or anything like that. So tight end, defensive end, kind of just finding the field when I could, just kind of having fun with it. And 7th grade came along. Still, guys started to, kids started to become more skilled. You're you're getting older. You're playing. I was on a feeder team that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, feeding into the high school, and so we're playing with a lot of the same guys, 6th and 7th grade, and I wasn't seeing the field a lot. Just it just wasn't really fun. So after my 7th grade season, I sat down and I talked with my coach and my dad, and I was like, "Look, I'm not sure that I want to continue this. I'm not seeing the field. I'm not playing a lot. Not really having a lot of fun. I'd rather pursue baseball. I was all-star baseball team almost every year, so I really loved baseball. And I was like, I might just pursue this, or basketball. I had fun playing basketball too. So I was like, maybe football is not for me. They convinced me to stay on, continue playing football, like just give it one more year before high school hits, and then we can sit down and make another decision. And sure enough, not too far into like the first few practices of the season, the kid that was actually playing up from 7th grade with the 8th grade team, he was the center and long snapper. He got hurt his leg, and my dad, a few days later, my dad was like, "Hey, why don't we give this a shot? Like, just practice it for a few weeks, see if it's just a way to get on the field, and see where it takes us." And it helped because the rising, I don't know if he was a rising junior or rising senior at the time, but he was an upperclassman in the high school that our team was the feeder team for. And he had just gotten a scholarship to Toledo to play, Tulsa to play football as a long snapper. And he was the one who kind of introduced me to the camp circuit. Chris Rubio, the guy that I did camps with all through high school, and who taught me how to long snap. So I was working with the senior, the upperclassman guy. His name is Michael Brodsky. I'd work with Michael for a little bit, kind of teach me some stuff, and did it for the 8th grade team. I won the job. I was basically the only guy out there that kind of wanted to do it after the kid got hurt. So that's kind of how I got started. Did it for the 8th grade team, did it for the freshman team, and then played varsity for 3 years. So.
So when you decide to long snap, is there like basically a known training method, or is it something that you started from scratch? Is there YouTube videos? Like how do you start? How did you know you were good?
Yeah, I think I would say there's definitely, if you look across the board, there are a few techniques, a few I guess technique is really the only word I'm looking for, that most long snappers share. Using your lower half, I would say the successful long snappers share using your lower half to get the speed on the ball, having a flat back in your stance, follow through with your hands so you're getting that tight spiral. Most guys in the league, you can look across the board and say they check these boxes. They obviously know what they're doing. So when I'm teaching young kids, the technique and flexibility really is two of the most important things that I start with. And once you get the technique down, the muscle memory will follow once you eventually put enough reps in. I would definitely say there is a core. There is a core technique. There's definitely a baseline there for snappers to build off of.
Yeah. Is there another sport that you'd like compare it to? Is it like learning to bowl, to golf?
Yep.
Like is it how much of it is muscle memory?
I would say, gosh, at this level, with the speed of the game, and you're adding in blocking, a 250-pound linebacker that's, basically edge rushing you in the A gap. A lot of it is muscle memory because because it's happening in, you've got to snap the ball and get your head up and put your hands on your guy and get your feet in the ground in basically less than a second, because the ball will get to the punter in 0.7 on average. I would say most NFL guys are accurate, being accurate. Their ball flies back probably between 0.68, 0.72, somewhere around that at 14, 15 yards, which somebody actually did the math. A 0.68 snap at 15 yards peaks at like 45 miles an hour. So people always love to hear that.
Yeah.
But by the time I flick the ball back and get my feet in the ground, that guy is on me or almost on me, right there in the A gap. So it's, it's not all muscle memory because there is you have to be able to adjust, especially playing up here with the weather. You have to learn how to grip the ball differently. You have to learn the texture of your fingers, like how your skin reacts to humidity is super important. Learn that playing in Miami early in the season. Like if you go back and watch my film from 17, 18, 19, kind of, you can tell my snaps looked a little bit, and to the naked eye, to the average viewer, you might not be able to tell, but if you are really dialed in on snapping and what a snap should look like and where I'm aiming on a punter, and especially for field goal snaps as well, because the field goal snaps are more not technique, but they're more it's more precision based with the amount of spin that you have to put on the ball, based on how far you're lined up, where the holder is catching it. That's a more precise, because it has to you have to put the laces between 11 and 1 o'clock facing forward, or else he's gonna have to spin them. So but when you play down there in week 3 and it's the temperature on your phone says 95, but the temperature out there on the field when the sunshine is right on you is 105, whatever it is, and it just rained and it's super humid and your hands are sweating and you can't wipe them off on enough towels. You got to know how to adjust to holding a sort of brand new ball that they just broke in that day on game day for you to use as a kicking ball. And it feels different than the balls that you used all week in practice. If you don't have new balls to use, there's a ton that I could, I'm glad we're talking about it. I could go on for an hour talking about this, but there's so many. It's so much more than the muscle memory, but at the same time, the muscle memory is a big piece of the pie.
Yeah, I am struck. I think you said something about not so precise. To me, I'm getting nervous just listening to you, thinking about the play, about how precise it sounds. 0.68 versus 0.7 and 45 miles an hour, and but also combined with the fact that I've heard long snappers say this before, like just what a violent play it is, because as you said, instantly you've got to get your head up, because I'm sure when Josh worked with Wade Phillips' staff in the year 2000, right, Josh? And I'm when you're studying film, you're looking for any advantage you could get. I'm talking about the other side of the ball now. I'm sure they put guys across from you that are hoping, even though the ball's already out of your hands, I guess they think if they can catch you leaning back just a little bit, maybe they can get some sort of advantage by penetrating through and getting a hand on it, possibly, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does happen. It's happened to me, as it's at this position in this league, it's a very steep learning curve. And that's not to say that every other position is not a steep learning curve, because I'm sure that they are. I am purely talking just because this is the position I play. It's coming from coming from a college, we didn't run a pro style punt. We ran a spread punt where basically I snapped and just ran downfield to tackle, because the rules are different in college. You don't have to wait till the ball is kicked to release downfield. You can run, and that's why you don't see a ton of punt returns in the college game, outside of the really elite teams with elite players who focus in on the special teams phase of the game. Mm-hmm. It's so blocking. The first time I blocked somebody live, in a game was that first preseason game that I played for the Bills. You can do it in practice as much as you want. It's not the same as a game. It's you can make it as realistic as possible, but nothing. There's just when you step on the field on a game day, everything is just a notch or two higher. So, I mean, it's yeah. So
we're glad. So just before Don asks you another question, we're glad you're nerding out here. I'm a special teams nerd, and I sat and watched Ethan Albright and Steve Christie and Chris Moore do their thing every single day. Can you maybe tell people about like the rule change, where they're not allowed to line up over you? I think a lot of people are kind of confused about that. Can somebody like get a running start and leap over you? You could probably do a much better job, because I'm out places sometimes and I'll hear people like, just leap over him, just truck the center, and obviously they changed those rules because it was nasty. Back when I was there, 99, 2000, it was nasty. Ethan, had neck, trauma, neck injuries just from getting his head pushed back in so many times.
Yeah, I think, some of those rules took place, I think, right before I entered the league. So I've really only heard about them and sort of watched a little bit of film on what the old rules look like. But as far as the punt play, I think technically, the rule is they're not supposed to hit you till your head is up. I have never seen that called on a punt play because no snapper in the league leaves their head down for that long. And if you do, which I've seen some young guys over the years do it, so I'm not going to say nobody does it, but a few inexperienced guys. And I'd say that just because the speed of the game can catch you off guard at times. They get beat and maybe it ends up in a block punt, or they get beat and the guard has to help out with his man, or the PP has to double bump his guy because your guy beat you in the A gap. So it happens, but they call the roughing the snapper is the technical. I mean, I'm sure there's been a few called past few seasons, but those are mostly called on field goal or extra point plays, because sometimes what field goal block teams will do is they'll line up a guy in the A gap and he'll do a swim move to the other A gap, or vice, go from one side to the other, and he'll accidentally hit the snapper in the head, with his hand as he's swimming over, and they'll call that. Or he does a little rip move and, bumps the snapper in the head on his way through. It happens. It happened to me when we played the Giants a few years ago in New York. We were kicking a field goal from I don't even know, the 7-yard line maybe, and they called roughing the snapper. It was 4th and 2 or something, and we got a first down and scored a few plays later. So
took one for the team.
I'm about to say I took one for the guy. Barely hit me, but still, I mean, they called it, so I'm not going to be I'm not going to say he didn't hit me, but he did hit me. But I was a little surprised that he called it. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's in terms of running and getting a running start, that's all legal. Got teams on the punt block team, they'll do that all the time. They'll stack a 3 and a 4 in the A gap, and the 4 will get a running start, into the near side A gap or the other side A gap, and I've got to, if that's my guy, I've got to readjust and block him. That's part of the game. But as far as and then the leaping, I guess that really only happens on a field goal or an extra point. But
right.
that has kind of been phased out, because for a few years there, which I'm assuming the average fan remembers, there, Troy Polamalu was really great at it. There was a guy in Seattle that was really good at it. There's a couple guys it's a great skill, but it's super hard to really nail down. Is really timing up, and you got to watch a ton of film if a field goal holder has a tell, if they snap it on the hand every time, if they're tapping the ground every time, if he turns his head and they're 1 second and then the ball's coming out. There's every team usually has multiple cadences, but sometimes a couple games in a row you might get somebody that goes on the hand every time, and you can time it up. Edge guys do the same thing, but there, for a few years there, you could get a running start and jump over the snapper, but now you have to be. I think you have to be within a yard of the line of scrimmage, and you can't touch the snapper at all. If you leap over, you can't touch me at all. You have to clear, and you have to. I think there's something in the rule about hitting, you've got to touch your feet on the ground, before you jump at I don't know. It's
Yeah.
It's pretty much they've pretty much phased it out of the game.
So, Reid, going back to 2016, you come to the Bills. You're on the practice squad, and then you brought back in November. What realistically, what did you think the chances were for you to ultimately hit the field? Given, I'm sure you're looking at the roster. Garrison Sanborn was still here, I think, at the time.
Yep.
So, how did you made it, and but were there times you thought at least you were on a team and you could get a look at another team? But obviously, I'm sure you wanted to play, and it worked out great for you. What were your thoughts going through that?
Yeah. So, great question. And something that I actually don't get asked about a lot. But so I was there all the way. I signed as a undrafted guy right after the third round ended. It was between Buffalo and Washington, and Buffalo was offering me a spot basically to compete all the way through camp. And Washington just wanted me to come try out for their rookie camp to see if I could then get signed to the off season to then go to camp. So on my little big board thing that I had, I said, Buffalo is ranked higher than Washington. A lot of things went into the rankings and stuff. But funny enough, I'd actually never heard from Buffalo prior to the draft. So I was a little surprised when they actually called me.
You remember who called
you? You know what? You know what? If we're not live, I can look it up on my phone real quick.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I would have been in the room, but it's like the New York Stock Exchange for those few hours. It's mayhem. Yep. And then I was the person that would email the agreement to the agent and get it signed in lieu of a contract until you came to sign your contract.
I'm just seeing if I still have his name saved.
Wow, that would be cool if you did.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah,
take your time.
I would know it if I heard it, but I don't think I have.
Was it a scout or the special teams coach?
I think it was a scout.
Okay.
I don't have his name saved. I think it was I'm pretty sure it was a scout.
Okay.
I may have to go back and look it up after.
Yeah,
but,
don't worry. No worries.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so where did I leave off? Okay, so I'll just start back with I didn't hear from Buffalo. So I didn't hear from Buffalo. So I was a little prior to the draft. So I was a little surprised when they called me actually. But so ended up in Buffalo, went up, did the whole off-season training program, competed all the way through camp, and I felt like I had a good off-season. I obviously as a rookie, extremely naive to the whole business and the way things work, especially just at the long snapping position. So got cut after the third game. Oddly enough, we had played Washington, and I was basically home. I actually had a tryout with Seattle. They had a tryout for a couple guys, didn't make it. So I went back home and I was kind of just working odd jobs for basically 2 months, September, October. Walking dogs, doing stuff, just anything I could find so I could stay working out and snapping at the same time. And I was actually that morning I was pulling through, picking up breakfast for my parents. I was still living at home, and I was at like Chick-fil-A drive-thru or something. And I don't remember who. I think it was Jason Barberino. Jason Barberino.
Sure,
I think Jason, I'm pretty sure it was Jason, gave me a call back, and he said we want to bring you back on the P squad. And I lost, it was, 9 a.m. in the morning. Completely lost my appetite. I was so nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get home. So I went home, and he was like, all right, your flight's leaving at 2 o'clock. So I was like, okay. So I went home, and I'm getting way too in the weeds with this story. But
no, this is great. Yeah, please do. Yeah, it's great.
So went home, and I was like, you know what? I haven't snapped in 2 days. I was snapping, 3 times a week. So I was like, all right, Dad, let's get a quick session real quick in the backyard. Let's go out there. So I snapped for 20 minutes. I was like, all right, I feel good.
Because you knew it was going to be a tryout, right? You knew it was going to be a tryout?
No, I knew I knew they wanted to bring me back on piece. Like I was signing with the piece with practice squad like the next day or whatever.
Okay, all right.
So I knew I was going to be up there for, I don't know, at least a week on P squad, I guess. So I flew up there the week that the Bills were going to Seattle for Monday Night Football. So that was cool. You know, kind of practice with the team for a few days. I didn't travel or anything. So I basically spent the rest of that season just practicing during the week and kind of perfecting my craft, watching a lot of film with Danny Crossman, and kind of building a rapport with Colton Schmidt was the punter. Garrison, obviously, was super helpful to me. He taught me a ton about kind of being a pro, and he was super nice to me. But after the season was over, I was offered a futures contract, and I basically called my agent for like 30 seconds. I was like, "Hey, they're offering me a futures deal." I was like, what are we thinking here? And he's like, we can ask other teams, if we can, you can shop around a little bit. But I was like, no, I don't want to. I was like, I like my chances here. They brought me back. I was on P squad for 2 months, basically 9 weeks of the season, which, looking back on it, and I've talked to people about this over the years, keeping a long snapper on and that was before the P squad rules changed. Keeping the long snappers on a 10-man P squad is like unheard of, especially when the snapper that you have is healthy and has, he's a vet guy. So obviously, that made me, I realized that a little bit as I was going through. So it made me appreciate Danny and the guys that brought me back and were kind of pouring knowledge into me at the time. The next spring, I think I was working part-time, just doing intern work at a chiropractor's office. And I had checked my phone like during break time and saw that the Bills had cut Garrison. So, I knew that it was my time to shine and I was going to be the guy. And I didn't really answer your question. So to go back to your question, did I think that I was, did I have confidence that I was going to see the field again? Absolutely, I did. I knew based on, the practice, how I practiced that offseason, my rookie offseason in Buffalo, the work that I put in, the film, my film in preseason that N16 was okay. It wasn't great. I was still getting used to like K balls for games because they're, like I said, not the same balls that you use in practice. They're a little newer, a little slicker. So they definitely take a little bit of getting used to. But I felt like, I had the mentality and I had the mindset and the physical build and the skills to play at the NFL level, whether it was with Buffalo or whether it was, with whoever, 31 other teams. And you never forget, they always tell you every year, they tell the rookies when you go into preseason, not all of you guys are going to make it, but you're putting film out there for every other team in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And it's so true. You can see it every year. But to answer your question, yes, I absolutely knew that I was skilled enough to play in this league at this level and to play for a while. And I'm proving that to myself each and every day.
Yeah, that's great. You were right to read into the situation where it was a 10-man practice squad at the time that they were keeping you as one of those slots rather than a position where maybe more injuries would occur. And
right.
So there was an investment even just in that move. So it certainly.
Were you the only long snapper in the league on the practice squad at the time? Do you know?
I believe I was, and it's funny you bring that up because I forgot to mention this. I think it was maybe early December. I think I had been in Buffalo for a few weeks. John Dornbos for Philly snapped there for a long time. You guys might know he was the magician guy. Yep. Got pretty famous that one off season for going on America's Got Talent, maybe. Mm-hmm. He got hurt late in the 16 season, and so I was like, obviously watching a ton of film every week of snappers across, and you're watching like you're like, oh, is he messing up? Oh, is he messing up? You're like, where am I going to get a chance to, like to fit in? They could call, if obviously having a snapper on the P squad, you are definitely more of an attractive asset than some guy who's sitting at home, not, practicing in his backyard. So, I'm thinking, oh man, like I'm waiting on the phone for my agent to call, like, hey, Philly wants to sign you off the practice squad, whatever. But they signed Rick Lovato, actually, who is still snapping for them now. Great friend of mine. So that ship sailed, which I wasn't super upset about because I loved being in Buffalo. But yeah, that's. I think at the time, Josh, to answer your question, I think I was the only snapper on a P squad that year.
Have you had any competition since you have been the Bills long snapper? Like, it's kind of unique, right? Like, they always usually bring in a camp leg, as a punter and as a kicker. Yep. Have you ever had anybody else come in long snap during the preseason?
I have not, no. And I tell, I tell my coach every year, I'm like, if I will take all the snaps, if you want me to take all the snaps, I'll take all the snaps. Because I've learned over the years that, those training camp punt period practices, like there's no once you're a few weeks away from that first preseason game and getting your first game reps, you need I need all the snaps I can get, live reps or not, even if I'm just snapping on a side field to the punter, I need all those reps I can get. So I whether that factors into it or not, I like to make it known where I stand. So
yeah,
but I'm sure there will eventually be competition someday.
Well, it's good to be ready for it, but you're obviously doing the right things to have the Bills have such confidence in you, and even just saying that you take all the snaps. I remember John Dorenbos with the Christmas party every year when he was on the team. Our owner then, Mr. Wilson, loved it. Hey, could you bring that magician guy over here? And he would go to the Wilson's table and just do these card tricks, and Mr. Wilson would just roar laughing, a belly laugh, like, oh, he was just entertaining him so much.
That's
one
amazing.
One of the things that has struck me too is you're learning the business of the league, and I think I'm sure he would be the first to admit it. But you're like a pioneer in this way. Your brother Blake must have really appreciate benefiting from the things that you've gone through before him.
Yeah, I think it's something that I have taken a huge interest in. Is the business side. I majored in sports business in college, so I've been interested in it for a very long time. I think the being hands-on and having firsthand experience with it for the past 7 years has obviously helped. But I do a lot of research. I follow a lot of stuff in the off season. A lot of the obviously the PA stuff a few years ago as they were doing the collective bargaining agreements. I was reading. I almost read through dang near the whole CBA, just skimming through and taking in as much information as I can, just because I feel like it's good knowledge to have, and it helps. You never know when you might need to know something. I've got guys. I'm not a rep for our team, but I know guys come up and ask me questions all the time. Because they think I'm a rep. So it's just, it's sometimes that's the way it works. But,
de facto,
to go into your point, my brother is actually got voted as one of the PA reps for his team last year. So he went to PA meetings this off season, and we've talked about it a ton. He thanked me for kind of getting him interested in that side of the league and that side of the business, because it really is it's fun, like it's interesting to know, but I think if you don't pay attention to that side of the game and that side of the sport and the business, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not fully grasping the scope of what you're doing.
I feel
like there's a lot of stuff that goes into hiring Reid Ferguson as the long snapper for the Buffalo Bills. There's more than just he's a good snapper.
Yeah, I feel like your position lends itself to intelligence, because I think in my time there, I remember just before you Garrison Sanborn had this thing where he lived in Florida, and he wanted to make sure that he was still considered a Florida resident by the IRS, which meant 180 days plus one. So he kept a travel log, and he'd come up to my office all the time and say, hey, are they going to count yesterday for a duty day because I didn't fly in till 11 o'clock last night, and here I even wrote it down, and we would go through. It was strangely enough came out so close to that 180 day deal that every day counted. And then I remember before that was Mike Schneck, and we brought him on. He was with the Steelers, and I remember we just had started a 401k plan for players. They got a real nice match, as I'm sure you know. And so we were talking about the 401k, and we had heard that the Steelers were a really lean organization. We knew some people, our peers that were on the team, they had multiple duties. And we said, who at the Steelers, who handles the 401k? And he's like, I did. Nobody else wants to do it. So as a player, he handled the player's 401k plan.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Like, wow. Okay. He goes, it's nice to come here and not to have to do it, but no one else wanted to do it. But yeah.
Let me hop in here. Let me ask you two quick ones, Reid, before we get to our closing segment. I think people would really be interested in knowing, what do you do during practice? And then what do you do on the sidelines during a game? Maybe just walk people through, what it looks like for you during those times. Because most people obviously aren't paying attention to the long snapper on the sideline.
Yep. So during practice, I'm usually eating donuts, drinking coffee, whatever. I'm just kidding. No, during practice, we stay, specialists have a shtick of being, you're jacking around in practice, going to work out, whatever. We stay pretty locked in. We have early special teams period and one kind of towards the end of practice. So both guys are getting work in a different, punter and kicker at different periods of practice. So I like the way that we set it up because it kind of forces us to stay locked in for the whole practice, and the early part we can work on, one phase. The later part we can work on another phase, whatever those might be. So, I'm getting out there, 15, 20 minutes before practice, warming up, getting some snaps because I know we're up, early first couple periods of practice, and then after that punt period or after whatever period is up early. Getting into, field goal snaps we might be going down to the stadium and kicking some balls in the stadium, getting used to, if we have a home game, we might spend 15 or 20 minutes of practice kicking down there on, 1 or 2 days during that week leading up to Sunday's game, and just kind of getting a feel for the wind or, the weather in the stadium. Sometimes it feels different than being up. You're on the turf versus the grass. The ball bounces a little differently. So it just depends. But during practice, we're staying pretty busy. And then during games, kind of I was going to say kind of the same. It's sort of the same. We go through our pregame warm-ups. And really during a game, if it's – I'll give you the nice weather scenario, and I'll give you the cold weather scenario since that's so important playing up here. The nice weather scenario, week 5 at home when it's 75 degrees outside and it's fantastic. I'm pretty active on the bench, getting snaps. When we gain possession, I like to get 1 or 2 punt snaps just to kind of get my rhythm back. And then I'm really locked in, helmet on, following the offense up and down, up the field wherever they're going, and kind of thinking about, what situation. I'm constantly thinking about what situation we're going to be in. Are we backed up? Did the Dolphins pin us deep on the inside the 5? Are we working backed up punt? Okay, we got a first down. Now we're just try to flip the field. Okay, now we've passed the 50. when do we get into field goal range? How far, what's Tyler's line? How much is Coach Smiley going to give him? Is he going to give him an extra 2-3 yards? Is he feeling good going one way or the other? Or is Sam going to hit, a plus 50, like an end over end, Aussie punt, like where's his range for that? That's kind of what I've locked into when we have the ball. But then when we don't have the ball, I kind of just hang out on the bench, rest the legs a little bit because, standing up for 3.5, 4 hours, 5.5 hours talking about pregame, including a pregame warm up. It does, I do get a little tired, even though I only play, 10 snaps a game, 20 minutes apart. Standing up for the whole time is not great for the back, especially on turf. So, try to take the load off a little bit. Sometimes I can't help myself. When defense is on the field, they're dominating or whatever, they get a big sack, I'll, get up and cheer for them and, watch the third down play. I'll stand up and watch the if the team's punting to us, I'll get up and watch that. But I don't know. I try to keep, us specialists. We mostly hang out there by the kicking net, depending on where the offense is.
Are you a Jumbotron watcher or are you a on the field watcher?
I majority watch the screens.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way. I'll share a quick story with you. When I was there and I was helping out the special teams on Fridays, Ethan Albright, Chris Moore, and Steve Christie, we'd go into the stadium to kick, and they would do snaps and all. And Steve and Chris had been there for years together, and they found it hilarious to try to find out how many of Chris's punts I could catch. And they would have a running bet because Chris would try to kick it over the over the second level, like basically higher than the 300 level, because obviously the wind patterns would change, whatever. So Steve and Chris would have a running bet that $10 a punt, and I had to 20 punts back there. And usually Steve bet on me, and Steve lost more money to Chris than I made him. But just so those times you go in the stadium and kick, it's a different animal than kicking in the field house. Like it's totally different.
Totally different. And especially, back half of the season, I didn't give my cold weather scenario, but to keep it short and sweet, I basically stayed next to the heater all game. I'm not stopping. You said it. It's a different beast. And we tried to get down there as much as we can, the three of us plus our special teams coaches, just to get as much work down there as we can, just because we want that's our home stadium, that's our home turf, and we want to be the best we can at adjusting and playing in that wind and weather as we can, and knowing the spots on the field where we can attack aggressively.
Yeah.
All right, Don, you want to run through the 2-minute warning with Reid? We close the show, Reid. We do a 2-minute warning where we ask you kind of 10 rapid fire questions. And Don, if you want to fire away, go ahead. The number one is not valid. You're our first active player. So our first question is typically where do you most interesting place to watch a Bills game? So that one probably doesn't work right now.
Well, it kind of already answered.
I would probably say
the Jumbotron.
Yeah, Jumbotron. There you go. From the bench on the Jumbotron. I will say, if you're the coolest Jumbotron probably is that new one out in SoFi. I think that's awesome. That's awesome out there. It's a cool stadium.
Okay.
All right.
Can you? I guess question number 2: who is the best returner who you tackled on a punt?
Oh my goodness, I don't have that many tackles. That's a great question.
I think 9.
You know what?
I actually number.
9 tackles.
I think
Wikipedia has you at 9. Wikipedia has you at 9.
That's pretty good. Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's like more than one a year. I'll take that. If I'm making tackles, we got problems. Let's just get that out there. If I'm making tackles, we got a problem. I actually tackled now teammate Naeem Hines a few years ago. So probably probably Naeem. It was a pretty good tackle.
Did you remind him of that? Is he aware of that?
I don't think I've actually brought it up to him. Actually, I think I don't know. I don't even know if it clicked until just now that I tackled that it was him. But I do know it was him because I remember seeing a picture of 21 in Indy. But that was the rain. They blew us out. It was pouring rain. That was like 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
That was the only game. I'll never forget it because that was the only game the specialists have been introduced out of the tunnel.
Oh,
all right.
It won't happen again after the result of that game, right?
Absolutely not.
It's a great answer, though. I mean, obviously, Naeem Hines is in Bill's folklore now forever.
Yes.
And after that game, so he's etched in. So, now 3 people, dead or alive, that you'd want to have dinner with.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that is a great question. Not to get sentimental, but my grandfather, my dad's dad, he passed in 2016, right before the draft. So probably my granddad. Oh my goodness, dead or alive?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Peyton Manning. He's my favorite player of all time.
All right.
And then, oh man. Probably say my wife because we're about to have our second kid, and I know that's going to be a tough thing to do is dinner alone. Now having a 2-year-old and a newborn, so I'll probably
Don, you're right about long snappers being smart. He's the first one on our podcast to answer his wife. Brilliant. You can see why you're still in the league. So you're entering an arena. You're being announced. You're the big deal. There's dry ice. What's your entrance song?
Thunderstruck.
All right, a good
it's
call.
Easy.
Best
number
best
one. Yeah, that's right off the bat.
Staying in the music theme, what's the best concert you've ever seen?
Chris Stapleton. He's my favorite.
Oh,
all right. Yep.
What's the best road city in the NFL?
That's also a great question, and one that me and my brother ask on our podcast to all the guests we have on, all the players we have on. That's a good question. Because we've beaten them the past couple times we played there, I would say Kansas City because it gets loud there. They have it's always packed when we go there. We've won the past couple times, so I'll say Kansas City's got to be up there. I haven't been to Seattle and I haven't been to San Francisco. Those are the 2 that I haven't visited. We were supposed to go to San Francisco the COVID year, but they moved it to Arizona like the week of the game. Man, I'd probably also throw Vegas up there because that stadium was awesome, but we played there during COVID, so there was no fans. So I'd love to go there with fans. Because everybody I talk to raves about that stadium with fans. So I'd love to play there with fans.
Cool. I've not been there either. It started after I was there, but food related, your favorite Buffalo restaurant and the dish that you get there.
Yep. I'm going to go with Toutant downtown. My guy James is the head chef. He's from New Orleans. It's a Cajun style restaurant. And their jambalaya is fantastic. Fried chicken is fantastic. Their biscuits are fantastic. Everything on the menu is superb.
Cool. Like 3 more here. The one I wanted to ask you about, kind of off the board. I saw on Sunday on Twitter you put on that you were on the honor flight. Do you think you could maybe just take a minute and tell people, what that is and how you got involved? And it's amazing. Thank you for doing it.
Sure. Absolutely. It was an honor for me to, no pun intended, an honor for me to be there and join everybody on that trip. So basically what the honor flight is and why I got chosen or asked to go this year, I was the Salute to Service nominee for the team last year. Each team nominates a person or a group of people. I think some team nominated like their cheerleaders last year. Some coaches sometimes get nominated. So as the team rep, I was asked to go. Coach Smiley went because he went with me because he served in the Air Force for 4 or 5 years as well. So we basically took a trip. We flew down to Baltimore, drove down to DC, and visited pretty much every memorial down there. World War II. Let's see. World War II was the last one. We actually didn't get to visit it because it started raining. But Korean War, Vietnam, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Arlington National Cemetery, the Air Force Memorial. We kind of hit all of our bases. And 50. We went with 50 local Buffalo area veterans. And they kind of had a guardian that helped them because they're all older gentlemen, and basically helped them around to each memorial. And we just got to spend maybe 45 minutes to an hour at each memorial throughout the day, and shared some stories. I talked to pretty much every single one of them, and all they wanted to talk about was Buffalo Bills football. And I'm like, you guys want to talk to me about football? I'm here to share this experience with you and hear your stories about war. But I was like, I'll talk football all day long. It does not matter to me. So it was great. It was a great day. Just meeting a ton of those guys and gals, and hearing their stories, and just sharing that experience, and getting to visit DC. I'd only been once before to kind of do the whole memorial scene, but that was 15 years ago probably. So it was fantastic. We got we had a send off in Buffalo, welcome in Baltimore at the airport, and then a send off in Baltimore, and a welcome back when we got back to Buffalo at 11:30 Saturday night. So it was an incredible trip, and something I'd recommend. If anybody gets a chance to go on one, it's fantastic.
That's beautiful. Josh, I'm glad you found that and brought that up. You sent it to me, and that's, a great take. I don't feel, even though the big board says I'm supposed to ask you what your favorite cartoon is now, it just doesn't seem right.
SpongeBob.
You can answer if you want, but
SpongeBob. I haven't watched it. I don't really watch cartoons, but that was my favorite one growing up.
There you go.
I feel like we already know the answer to this one. Can you drive a stick shift?
I can't. I want to learn, because my dream car is a late 60s, probably 68, 69 Mustang. They sell them in automatic, but I feel like it would be more authentic to drive a manual one. So I'll get one eventually, one of these days. But I feel like I will learn eventually.
All right, 2 more here. That's the three favorite sports movies of all time. Top 3.
Remember the Titans. Talladega Nights. And Moneyball.
Nice. Okay, last one here. Can you give us the name of your podcast with your brother so people can find it? And then B, can you sing us 5 seconds of the LSU fight song?
I can. So our podcast is called After the Snap. We started it about 2 years ago, 2 off seasons ago, and we've been going just about every week for 2 years. So we like to have a ton of guests on, players, teammates. We've had Jalen Waddle, Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, a couple guys from Miami, a couple guys from Buffalo. We've had a ton of snappers on, and then we've also had a couple of people on that are just business people that we want to hear their stories, and we just find them interesting, and we think our audience will find them interesting. So, we're having a ton of fun with it, and looking forward to another good year. And the LSU fight song. Oh my goodness. That's good. You caught me red-handed. I'm going to say you caught me red-handed.
Fair enough. That's quite all right. Well, you know,
we sang it after every win. We're standing there. I'm trying to like think. I would if I could like lead into it. I feel like I would be able to.
That's 2 in a row, Josh. Our last guest, George Wilson, he just blanked.
Arkansas. You know, so Reid, if you ever want the former director of football administration for the Bills on your podcast, you know, Don. I know Don's flexible schedule there. He did it for 15 years, so he might make an interesting guest for you guys someday.
I'm gonna add him to the list.
There you go.
After the snap, but this has been great. Josh and I were talking about, to wrap it up, the plays that you make, you know, the snaps. But unfortunately, I think it's a play that kind of gets taken for granted. It feels like all you could do is mess it up, but there's so much that goes into it. Going back to the beginning of your conversation, I just found it, and I know listeners will find it just fascinating about the technique and all the things you have to anticipate. But above and beyond that, it's just
the biggest. It's the biggest change of field position play in the game of football.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's a good call.
If that gives you, I mean, that's what, you know, that's kind of the point of emphasis that I try to stress with guys that are, you know, young guys that are learning how to play special teams and learning, you know, they've been big fish in a little pond, and they get up here and you're the, you know, 5th running back, or you're the 4th tight end, or the 7th, 8th linebacker. Like, you got to learn. I mean, you're going to be a 4-phase guy if you want to make the team. So, and then putting an emphasis on punt, obviously, because that's what I'm partial to. But I mean, it's you know, you're changing on most punt plays, you're changing field position of 40 to 45 yards. So
I have a 10-year-old.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a 10-year-old right now. They just started. I got twins, and the one's really into football, and it's their first practice of flag was last Thursday. So maybe we're going to look up on YouTube and find out how to snap. I think I'm going to have him listen to you, and you know, maybe that's his pathway, because I don't think athletically he's going to make it any other way.
I mean, I have told many people, and I have no problem saying it. I obviously, and I shared it, you know, on the first question. I was not the most athletically gifted player out there on the field. 5th, 6th, 7th grade, wasn't seeing the field playing normal positions, and I think it's snapping. I tell guys this all the time. Snapping is a great way to find your way on the field if it's something you can figure out. B, depending on how good you are, it's a great way to get a free college education. Depending on what level you can get a scholarship at, or a partial scholarship or whatever, and see, you know, for the rare instance, because it is rare, and I never take it for granted, the rare instance that you make it this far, you can provide a great life for yourself.
Yeah. Well, you're a very good football player, and
not get hit a lot doing it.
There you go. Thanks so much, Reid. We really appreciate your time. Absolutely. Hopefully, everybody can check out your podcast as well with your brother after the snap. Thanks a lot, Reid.
Appreciate it, Reid.
Appreciate it.
It's been great.
Take care.
All right. Very good.
All right, I'm going to pop on out of here.
You guys.
Okay. Yeah, hit us.
That was great.
Or if you have to go, Josh.
No. Go ahead.
You guys? I'm interested how you guys started doing this.
That's a good story. You want to tell? It, Tom?
What's the story?
So Josh and I worked together 20 years ago. We both, Josh got let go. The whole coaching staff got wiped out in 2001 after his season. There's a lot more to it, but I was let go after 2017. Just same thing. The whole scouting staff got let go. I was part of it, and that's fine. They gave me a soft landing, but we didn't talk for 15 years or something, and then we got together finally. He saw that I got let go. I had a couple beers someplace. And
it took me about 15 years to get over being fired from the NFL, Reid. I mean, he's being generous to me. I had a hard time. I honestly, I grew up here. I'm from here. I had the 4 Super Bowl years were my college or my high school years. So I interned with Don. He was a director of merchandise when I started out of college, and then I got promoted to the football side of things, a job that I absolutely never thought in my wildest dreams I would get. And then obviously, when Wade got let go, we all kind of got let go, and I hadn't been there long enough. I was only 23 years old. I didn't have a contact to stay in the NFL. I bounced around. I did some like quality control in the Arena League for a couple of years, but it took me a long time to get past it. So when Don got let go, we kind of, rekindled our friendship. And I knew that he had, A, some amazing contacts, but then B, he's got amazing stories of his, 30 years with the Bills. And he's like kind of annoyingly humble. And it took me a while to get him to agree to do this because, just the stories he can tell about. Yeah. Just the stories he can tell, and he's been in the room for all the big free agent acquisitions, before Brandon Beane and McDermott got here, and so we started in September, and then we ended up joining the Cover One network, which is a bunch of local guys who have been doing it for a while. Yep. We started with $50 worth of equipment, and neither one of us knew how to turn the camera on. So we built it quite a bit quickly, and we enjoy doing it. So that's kind of how we did it. But I kind of had to drag Don Kingman screaming because he's got a lot to offer and a lot of information, and it took a while.
Well, it was
kind of guys are fantastic. Yeah. I follow. I see a lot of their stuff on Twitter, and they do a great job. I mean, they teach me stuff about the game that I'm like, watching their breakdowns and stuff. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't go to offense and defense meetings.
Yeah, they are great, and we were lucky that they picked us up because I think we'd have been really struggling on our own. Like we were able to kind of hit fast forward and join those guys who'd already been doing it for 5 years and had 20,000 followers on YouTube, and we did like 10 episodes on our own as kind of a proof of concept. We sent one to a couple of different places, and surprisingly, there was like this little mini bidding war for us, which kind of shocked me. We picked them, and we've been doing it. We did it throughout the season, and then we're going to definitely go through this season and just kind of see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and they're so great at breaking down film. Our niche is talking with people like you about your football journey, and then talking between ourselves, and it seems to work. It's fun. So it's been great talking to you, and I can't wait to check out your podcast.
Absolutely.
Too. Yeah.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
you guys.
Good luck this season.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
All right.
See you guys.